Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of For the Record, the show that brings you the greatest personalities, the greatest news, and insight into the world that we live in. Today, I have two amazing guests. By now, probably the people that circumvent Singo TV and Spanglish World networks already know them because they are the stars of that network. Uh, Miss Veenu Keller and Mr. Chuck Hogan. Welcome to the show, Veenu and Chuck.
Oh, thank you for having us, brother.
I'm so excited to be here with you all.
So, first of all, Veenu, I know that everybody knows you, but give us a little bit of a background on who you are and what you do, and how long have you been doing it for?
Okay, great. So I'm Veenu Keller. I'm known to many as the parent child whisperer. I have created this niche where I work with families, parents, I work with children, I coach both, I coach all to help them to enhance the bond they have with each other. I grew up in a time where I was bullied, I felt alone, I was suicidal, I self harmed, I was in a psych hospital when I was younger. And I had to break through those stories. And I used to ask God, like, why me? Like, why am I here? Why do you keep making me live this life? And then I finally got the answer. When I finally broke through and I started to work with some of these kids, what I realized was I had to go through it to understand them. I had to really experience the life and the misunderstanding, if you would. So here's the deal. Like, and I'm a parent of six. So when I think of how we listen as parents, I am just as guilty as some of my clients. I listen to my kids as, how could I solve it for you? How can I make it easier for you? How could I make this a lesson for you? Instead of listening to the kids and asking them the questions that they need in that moment to really feel heard and seen through their model of the world, not ours. So all of a sudden, my past that I thought was a trauma was actually a gift for me. It was a gift to help me help those in the world that need that understanding, that space to feel that they can be open and they can trust so they can actually bond even closer to their parents. So I've been doing this. Well, I've been coaching since 2009, but I really niched myself since about 2017. And, thanks to being invited by you to have my show that I have right now on Tuesdays, I've been able to touch even more lives and help even more families understand that it's time that we start to redefine the way we're parenting, because we're not in the generation that we were born in. We're in a whole new generation with a whole new, aspect of what's expected in life. So that's what I'm doing right now.
So, now we'll go to the gentleman on the left or on the right, maybe. Mr. Chuck Hogan. And Chuck, I might be wrong, but the financial side is where you lie. The good vibes, the good faith, that's where your vibe is at. Give us a little bit more on it, on that.
Sure thing, buddy. For me, the last 35 years has been spent on this journey of self-realization. I'm thankful to say that my parents are two of my heroes. I was born overseas. I'm the son of a Navy enlisted man for 30 years, and my amazing Japanese mom. And so I grew up with this wide array of culture. But being a child of the 60s, I can tell you that coming to the United States was a very interesting prospect. It's like, wow, I don't look like everybody else. And when I go back to Japan, wow, I'm only half Japanese. So trying to find a place where you actually fit in was a little bit nebulous. With a name like Charles Francis Hogan II, I have a redhead, blue-eyed Irish dad. I'm an 85-pound, 4'11" and a half portable mom, and it's like, whoa, okay, this is Heinz 57 wrapped up in a bow right here. And so about 35 years ago, I started getting involved in behavioral sciences. I really had this penchant for not only all things finance and business, but more so kind of, I'll say, the faith and fitness side of things as well. It's like, how do we integrate body, mind, and spirit into our existence? Because I grew up with this Irish and a Buddhist mom, it's like going, wow, okay, the metrics are here. When I say I'm from back east, I'm from way back east. It's like across the pond, over the ocean, through some hills, and then to this little Japanese hut you go. Why did this become important to me? Well, I started realizing that much like Veenu experienced, whenever there was segregation or I wasn't feeling good about myself, these were all fuels of choice that I had elected to use because I looked different, spoke different, everything about me was different. I quickly realized that number one, I was unique, not broken. And number two, that I was never going to allow anyone to point a finger at me and say that he lacks heart or integrity, that he lacks the ability to be able to move forward and grow. See, I realized a couple things, Eduardo. When I was young, people used to tell me to do anything I put my mind to, and I realized that everything that was happening was because I put my heart to it, that there was this drive, there was this passion. So a couple of years ago, of all things, because I'm a really intelligent guy, I decided to open a business during COVID. Yeah, this is really smart. And so in 2021, we decided to launch this company called Your Best Life. And it's all about faith, family, fitness, and finance. And so understanding that you're not the sum of just one aspect of you, you're the culmination of everything. And that the human condition is that we all are seeking harmony in our lives, not balance. Let's be very careful about languaging. Harmony. That means when change occurs, that we have the assets, the abilities, the belief systems, the structure, the dogma to go ahead and find within ourselves the beauty, the grace, the intonation, the voice, the presence, and the happiness to be our best self, so that in turn we can do our best and affect and effect everyone around us. And so for the last 30 years, this has been my life's mission that's culminated into this. And much like Veenu, after having been a guest on her show and meeting you, being able to say that on Thursday nights, we get to commune together to live your best life and to share thoughts and ideas and distinctions as to how we come together to really postulate more of our best selves.
So, and now we culminate in a new show called Live Now, which is going to be co-hosted by both of you. And one of the things that is interesting is the chemistry that you both have with each other, because it seems like you cannot stop laughing with each other and telling stories, and watching you interact. I think it's going to bring a different perspective to the audience in the idea of what we can do from this side in following faith, following good lifestyle, and how can we help our future generations under the Veenu banner to understand where they have to go, and the best way to do it through communication. So let's explore that, because I know that you guys are going to have guests, but as well is the conversations that you both are going to have in regards to how parenting goes, and how does that affect the ecosystem in families.
Right.
Well, let's start with the parenting side, because that's an interesting side. Uh, Look, I am the clear example, and as Chuck said, we all come from a variety of cultures. I consider myself a Russian salad bar, because I bring the Middle East, I bring Spanish, I bring Russian, Romanian, so to the table. So I am completely different ways in which I was brought up that were completely at odds with each other. So and this is what I'm trying to relate to my kids now. And some of the methodologies that my parents might have used with me probably weren't the best, and I'm trying to do the opposite. But the opposite seems to be just not interacting very well with the current situation, because my kids are 30 years younger than I am,
Right.
or more.
It's funny because I guess I'm the only full breed on the show today, right? So my thing is, I was like, I'm full Indian. I'm the first generation born in the United States. But if you ask ChatGPT, Chat GPT definitely wants to keep saying I was born and raised in India, and I so wasn't. So AI needs a little bit of more help with that, because no matter what I put, it wants to put that. But no, I was raised in America. Like Chuck was saying, like I also had that, where do I fit in? Because I'm not American, because I'm brown skin. I mean, I remember at 7 years old being in my garage trying to erase my skin because I wanted to be white, not feeling like I could ever get a boyfriend because all the cute boys were always dating the white girls with the brown or, blonde hair and blue eyes and green eyes. And here I'm brown all the way over. And so, when Chuck and I, you talk about chemistry, and I think what it is with me and Chuck and I met almost 2 decades ago. And I mean, we definitely do not age, by the way, just in case you guys see us. We look exactly the same. But we bring in, what we want to bring the element to the show is really that masculine, feminine energy, because, the masculine knows how to compartmentalize. They know how to solve and resolve. And the female, we want to feel, we want to receive, we want to nurture. And what Chuck and I really wanted to do, because we can have these great banters, is we really wanted to look at like what's going on in life today, like what are we hearing in the world and how people are interpreting it. Because I think I speak for me and Chuck, we don't spend a lot of time in the news. Like that's just not where we want to spend our time. We want to spend our time where our mind grows and expands, and we don't have to constantly have to be weeding it. But we do hear what's going on because we hear it with our clients, we hear it with our kids. We see the suffering that comes from the fear. And live with Veenu and Chuck, that's going to be on Monday nights, what we want to bring is that element of how do you look at like what you think is suffering and living in scarcity? How do you turn it around to see the possibilities that are happening? And it's kind of like what Chuck was saying, how he dared to start a business during COVID. Like, who did that? Here I'm thinking like, I don't know how I'm going to put food on the table. Yeah, right. I'm thinking like, okay, who's going to pay for a coach? Like you can't even put food on the table right now because everything's shutting down. Who's going to want a coach? That was my highest profiting year, because parents now all of a sudden had to be like, oh, wait, you're my responsibility during the day. And
Right.
oh, wait, there's these behaviors going on. And oh my gosh, I don't know how to handle it. Now we're post-COVID, and it's like, oh gosh, there's even new behaviors going on. Oh gosh, I don't know how to handle it. And so we want to help. We really want to help end suffering. We really want to help get people out of the scarcity mindset and put them back into the abundance mindset. Wouldn't you say, Chuck?
Absolutely. It's about embracing change. Change is happening with or without you. You don't control COVID. You don't control post-COVID. You don't control the next thing or event that's going to happen. What you get to influence is your heart set and mindset, and understanding that, number one, you're not broken. Number two, that there is a plethora of resources. The challenge becomes, though, is what feels best to you. See, everyone's looking for this magic horse pill, and if you just choke down this thing that's about 6 inches wide and you just pop it down your gullet, you take a drink of water, you chew, masticate this thing, and you're going, I'm healed. And it's like going, but you still feel cruddy. It's
Right.
like, wait, what happened? I thought that this was the magic horse tablet. And I go, well, that cured about a quarter of what you were dealing with. It wasn't the solution, because the truth is, taking something exterior to you and trying to bring it interior to make the change isn't where the change is going to happen. It starts from you first. And to
Right.
Veenu's point, one of the reasons why I love this woman so much, and her husband knows this, and my wife does too, so we're all good, is a very simple reason, that is, she's authentic and real. It doesn't get more real than Veenu. That is so important to me, because I live my life from this very simple basis, and Veenu knows that saying well. It's like, you be doing your best but not being your best. I choose to be my best so I can do my best, and that's whoever I am in that moment. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to make it wrong or right or say I'm superior. But in this space, when she and I commune, what I love is getting context. We can actually look at the world and start to go, this is the stuff that people are experiencing. And albeit, it's always going to be changing. AI, people are freaking the heck out.
Yeah.
And we're going to be obsolete in, they say in 24 months. And I'm like going, well, there's nuances of your industry that may be optimized by AI So how do you make yourself indispensable? How do you become the value system or the artist or the creator that creates synergy? So now people need you,
Right.
processes need you. But it's not by fear mongering, it's actually by empowerment. And so live now is literally about that. Again, the tagline is yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery. Well, let's embrace the moment now so we can move forward deliberately, but not drive around looking in the rearview mirror and hoping that we get to see the panorama that's around us, because that's a very short-lived life.
Right.
It's the fastest way to get in an accident, actually.
And it's like Chuck was saying, like even with this whole AI thing, like this is a great thing, like stuff we'll be talking about is like the scarcity of it is, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have a job anymore. They're going to have all these like things doing it for me. I'm not going to have the job. So they go into scarcity and they get scared. And here, what I'm going to say is AI doesn't have heart.
Yes.
AI doesn't have the nurturing. AI may give you the scientific this and how to outline this and how to write this. But what it doesn't have is that feeling. It doesn't know how to live in the moment now. It only knows how to give you facts and writing and grammar and these checks. But what it can't give you is what we have, that human connection. So we want to bring that. We want to tell people like, yes, how it's like what he said is like, how do you optimize where you're at in your life with AI? So use it for your benefit instead of using it to bring your life down and get in scarcity. Because when we're depleted, that's where we get stressed. And when we get stressed, that's where cancer lives.
That's,
it is.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So guys,
how about that for an answer, Eduardo?
You guys do it so well. I don't have to work for a living anymore. But so let's talk a little bit more about that, because it's interesting. Because being different makes you unique in this day and age. Everything is about the uniqueness of what someone has that can bring betterment to somebody else or to the world.
Yes.
And that uniqueness, especially when we are talking in with all that is going on in the media right now, how do you think parents and business people should look at grabbing these unique individuals and bringing to the forefront so that they can help others create?
Ooh, love this.
I mean, I got like just a one answer. It's like a one statement. And to me, it's ask a better question, get a better answer. So where you focus is what grows. So if you're going to focus on the scarcity of it and what's not happening, that's exactly what's going to grow. But when you ask a better question about like, okay, so this is happening. What can I appreciate about this right now? How can I appreciate this? What about it can I appreciate? When we go into appreciation, we automatically go into that gratitude. We automatically see the greatness of it, not the scarcity of it. And so for me, particularly, any challenge I get, instead of going, oh my gosh, how am I going to do it? I always go to default is what's the opportunity? What's the opportunity here? Even with COVID, it's like there was a hot minute. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my life? Because again, if you can't put food on the table, how are you going to pay for a coach? And to my, misunderstanding, I guess it was, my business grew. Chuck created business. You created business because all of a sudden we change. And it's like, what's the opportunity here?
The primary question is, what's amazing about this? Because everything has an opportunity. If progress equals happiness, what feeds progress is possibilities. And there's possibility all around you. It's consistent. It's one of the unique attributes of the human being and the human psyche, if you will. But your mindset comes from your heart set. So if you're not motivated, if you're not feeling nurtured, cared for, philanthropic, charitable, valued, having brevity, a sense of humor, all of a sudden now you become portions of yourself. And here's what we know about the human condition. Anytime you judge any portion of self, even in the uniqueness of how someone perceives themselves, they go, oh, you're special, you're different. And we've grown up in this environment where everybody gets a participation trophy. And
Right.
it's like, wow, good effort. And I go, oh, you're applauding doings, not being. Because we're looking at the result or the perceived result and going pass or fail. Our education system is predicated on this ideology. In fact, it's kind of strange now because the first thing they used to go, oh, do your own work. I remember going into school, do your own work, be unique, have your own thoughts and ideas. And then the first thing they teach you when you get out of school, collaborate, team build, work together. And it's like, whoa, wait a second, what just happened?
Which way am I going to do? Am I going to be by myself or do you want me to work with somebody?
So Eduardo, you asked a question. I'm going to give you a very succinct answer. Everyone is already unique. Everyone. The challenge becomes that in today's popularized climate, people are, through socialization, looking at social media and desiring to copy or be like someone else. They have an avatar that could be a Kardashian or someone. And here's the challenge with that. You automatically become physically weaker when you manifest an identity of someone else that is faking it till they make it. Now, why? Because that's not who you are. You may have some modalities, you may have some nuances, you may even have what we'll call meta programs that run like other people. Like, oh, well, they have a great sense of humor. I have a great sense of humor. Great. That's what we'll call an aspirational point where you can actually link together. But then you go, oh, she's blonde hair, blue eyed, and I'm dark skinned and dark haired and really dark eyes. And I go, well, okay. And people go, oh, I can't change. They go, sure, I can. I can bleach my skin. I can wear a wig. I can put on contact lenses. And this stuff's happening all the time. Here's the craziest part. If you took a photograph of them under Correllian photography and you actually measured their energy fields as to when they are sleeping and being their full self, you would see this wonderful aura around them. Here's the crazy part. If you see them when they're faking it till they make it, not believing till they achieve, you will actually see a drop in their energy field. They physically become weaker. Physically.
So now I am going to bring some controversy to both of you because it's something that has been puzzling me for the last since COVID, really since COVID started. Because as a result of COVID, companies got created.
Yes.
One of them being Clubhouse, this wonderful application that they developed through Apple, where millions of people met and spoke about different topics. But everybody that I met through that application and then in the outside medium, we got a, and it's not the case with you guys because I know that you guys have experience. You have been doing this for 20, 25 years. But during COVID, we had an explosion of what we call life mentors and coaches. And I said, holy moly, there is more mentors out there than there is people working.
Yes.
And how do we differentiate between one and the other?
An expert, a mentor
Right.
strategist. Yes, I'm gonna default to Veenu, please.
I mean, I am laughing because here, I'm in the. I'm going to say this off of one of my mentors and one of my friends and one of my partners. Joseph McClendon III says, "We don't coach theory." There's the difference.
Yes.
You want to know a real mentor? A mentor's been there. Like I can coach someone how to make money, but I would never say, oh, I'm going to coach you on how to make $1 million because I haven't made $1 million. So who am I to say that? I'm not going to, if I'm in the middle of a divorce, I'm not going to coach you on how to have the best relationship. Like that's just not it. I might teach you how to uncouple, but I'm not going to teach you how to stay together. Right. And that's what people were doing. And this is the thing about Clubhouse. I'm so glad you brought it up. You know why everybody wanted Clubhouse? Because you had to be invited. You had to be invited to get in Clubhouse. And then you got invited and then you had to wait to be accepted.
Yep.
And so everybody's like, oh, am I going to get invited? Because when you got invited, all of a sudden you felt significant. You felt like you were worth it. So everybody's like, oh, I have an invite. I'll send you an invite. So I was one of those people that jumped on it. I'm like, I wanted to feel my own significance in it. I got my invite. I got on and I did nothing with it. Nothing. I don't even hear about Clubhouse anymore. I'm sure people are on it. People talk on it. But here's the problem. Like you said, people started giving advice to people stating that they're the expert in this and the expert in that. And all of a sudden, the word expert has no more meaning The word mentor had no more meaning. The word coach. And this is when everybody's like, oh, I need to be something besides a coach. I need to be something besides this. But guess what? When I'm looking for a coach, I'm not, oh, what's a creative word someone's going to use today? Peak performance specialist. So they're not Googling that. They're Googling behavioral coach. They're Googling financial coach. They're Googling, financial mentor. They're still using those words. So here's what sets us apart are the people who don't do it through theory. They've lived it. They have experience in it. They've been educated in it. I mean, Chuck and I met on a different platform. Him and I have had several mentors that were the same. And we met, like I said, almost 2 decades ago. But we met as students.
Yes.
We were students together. We were hungry to grow. The reason why Chuck and I are brother and sister, it's because our mindset, it's because we're still hungry to grow. We don't act like we know it all because the first time we do, we stop the learning process. And we don't want that. We want to bring to you and our listeners and, everyone all over the world that there are opportunities when you allow your brain to open and grow. And that's what we're here to do. And we're here to model that for you. So that's what I have to say about the whole Clubhouse mentoring stuff and everything. So on to you, Chet.
No, I found Clubhouse confusing, to be quite frank. I was invited on by some pretty high level folks. And they said, hey, we've heard you speak. We've seen you on stage. Please come on. And it's like, okay, but now there's no video. It's all audio. And I'm like, well, the number one modality with which most people communicate first, at least in North America, 98% is visual first. It's auditory and kinesthetic second. But what we started finding was there were a lot of people who had the gift of gab. And then there's some people who thought they had the gift of gab. And you're like listening to them and going, I'm confused and perplexed by like the conflict within the last 2 statements they just made. And it's like, are they refuting themselves? Okay. Like, almost like, hey, you were right. No, you weren't. I'm like, it's the same person talking to themselves. It's like, okay, this is really strange. The second part is that it lacked moderation. And so when I started to hear people talking over one another or people who felt that they knew more than someone else, they would just chime in. And I was like, wow, this is actually quite rude in some ways. I love open forums. I love when people can speak. I said, but there needs to be a level of distinction in curriculum as well as a level of respect. And when left to their own devices, those people in a disc model that are uber high D, they have a tendency to Shanghai the conversation. Yet they're the ones most ill-equipped with the data. Those are the C's and S's. And then we have the influencers who just want to make peace with everybody. And so it's like watching these distinctions of how people were engaging, Eduardo. And Veenu, I mean, I can only imagine she heard and saw this the same way I did. I stopped doing them for one simple reason. There was a lack of respect, one. And number two, there was no appreciation of optics. So it's like, then why ask me a question when you don't really want the answer? All you're doing is baiting me to give you a response, and you're going to go ahead and respond the way you are anyway. So Clubhouse has fallen off for one simple reason. As we've been conjoined back and we have studio time, we're able to go ahead and connect at a deeper level, and people can feel and see the emotion. They can sense in you, and they can see the integrity. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so from the center of our hearts, thank you for this forum, because it really does provide a space where when we share, we care. And the world needs more caring right now. It really does. We're in these hybridized work environments now where people are working 50-50 from home and office. And I'm seeing mass changes in culture. And my own hallucination is that within the next 12 months, you're going to see even more mammoth change as socioeconomic structures start to, correct themselves, and there's imbalance and perceived balance being put back in the marketplace. But you don't have to freak out about it. That's the thing. You don't. Breathe. Take a moment. They go, but Jude, they're downsizing my position. I said, great. You are better than that anyway. Your time to grow and move beyond this. Well, okay, dude, that's a great statement to make. How do you do it? Well, let's talk about it. Let's get resourceful. There are more people working from home than ever before and making more money than they've ever made before.
Right.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I mean,
Eh,
it's funny because I'll tell you my experience with Clubhouse, and I will tell everybody and anybody who knows me, the only reason, the only thing that made the people that drove me into Clubhouse was my wife, because she's the only one in my household that uses Apple.
Oh,
I use Apple.
Uh, and she told me, "Oh, you have to see this platform. I got invited, and I this and that, and
Do
there is group. There is groups, and you can, and there's a Latin group that got formed." And I said, "Okay, let me go in through your account. I won't go get an account by my, because I don't have an Apple phone. But let's see what it's all about." And the funny part was that I used it not so much as a platform where I would go to relax
yeah.
or talk or whatever. I used it as a recruiting platform for my
Oh,
for the network, because I found that there were a lot of people from the sports industry that were there that had been laid off,
yes.
and they didn't have anything else to do because they used Apple. So I went and met them, and I got them to come and do shows with me, and gave them a new avenue to release their tension that they didn't have. But that was the aspect of me going to Clubhouse. I found it that the one interesting, and I created one room. We created one room with sports athletes that we had been in the Olympics or in the Pan Am Games, for
Oh,
mental health awareness of athletes. People would
oh,
come into the room and hear the stories of athletes that had struggled with mental anguish while they were in the prime of their lives, because of the struggles that they had fulfilling the dreams of everybody else, not their own.
right.
Mm.
So
I'm going to say this, Eduardo, and you hit on something that me and Chuck have been saying. The show is that you took something and you created an opportunity out of it. You found the good in it. And that's just it. Like, we could sit here and laugh at Clubhouse and whatever, but there's people that found the opportunity and found the good in it. People found opportunity to connect with some of these celebrities that they didn't know how to connect with before, because you go
Yep.
into this open forum and then you put your hand up and they bring you up to talk. You're talking to your favorite celebrity now, and you may not have been able to do it. So you figure out that opportunity you have. And here's the deal. And I was just talking about this today in a class I was teaching. I teach coaches how to be coaches, real coaches, by the way, Eduardo, not these like pseudo coaches, right? Like real coaches. And I said, you don't have to wait to be bad to be good. We're always
Yes.
looking for that negative feedback to say, okay, what can I do better? This was so great, but I sucked here. You didn't suck. You were great. And you had an opportunity here to get the feedback to do even better. And so we're always waiting to, like, because I was that person like, oh, tell me what I did wrong. And, Chuck actually used to be, he still is a mentor, but he used to be specifically a mentor to me. And I was like, hey, Chuck, okay, give me your feedback. He's like, Veenu, first of all, girl, you did. And I'm like, okay, but tell me what I need to prove. Like, I was always waiting to tell me what was wrong. Tell me what was
Mm,
bad so I can make it good. And let me tell you, that's what the world does. That is why we have been trained to be self-beaters instead of
yes.
self-builders. We beat ourselves. Why? Because we think if we tell ourselves what is wrong with us, then we can make it even better. But if we can shift that to an opportunity where we can actually see what is good in our kids. If they're getting a D in history, great, it's not good to you, but what is good? That they're showing up every day to class,
Right.
that they're coming to you and saying, hey, I have a problem. They're not hiding their report card from you. They're asking for help. Like, find the good in that moment, right? Stop waiting for there to be a bad in order to be a good.
Yeah, because it's not yin and yang. It really isn't. And one thing with Clubhouse, and I'll get off Clubhouse after this, is that I found that it propagated a huge level of imposter syndrome, where people were faking it till they make it. They were just like, I'd hear people quoting phrase and verse, like the Bible or Tony Robbins or Jim Rohn or Franklin Covey or Ed Milet. I mean, I could go on and on and on. There are people who literally are reading and going, yeah, and they weren't giving credit to source either. You're like, well, in my opinion, this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, wow, that was great. I could have pulled that out of the manual as well. Why do I say this though? People want to belong and connect so desperately. And Clubhouse created that forum, but it was artificial. And so you'd have people who are on this freaking platform for 16 hours straight, like they're having a conversational marathon. And I was like, I can't take any more of this personally. But to Veenu's point, there were so many people, they were just so desperate to have some form of connection that they'll start to sacrifice their own values and rules.
Correct.
What they're really seeking is love, passion, more deep intimacy. But they're like, hey, at least I'm out there. At least I'm putting my someone's hearing my voice. Someone's giving me an attaboy or an attagirl. I go, well, yeah, it's all external, right? It's all coming at you. Hey, that was a great point. Hey, I appreciate what you said. Hey, and it's like, great. But did you appreciate yourself? Because in some instances, you're just you're reading something off a page and then taking credit for it. I go, plagiarism doesn't give you strength. But making a determination in your heart and soul and your integrity and sharing your true truth, that creates power. And really, I believe in my heart of hearts that in today's climate, that's what we're all looking for, is a little bit more truth. Right. Whether it's uncomfortable or not. People will buy real over processed any day of the week. Elections have been won off of perceived truth, not even like full-on truth, because if you fact check it, you're like, oh, that's a bunch of baloney. But whoever was saying it believed it so much that you're like going, well, they believe it. I'm going to go with them. Why? Because the other person is being strategic. They're being baiting. They're running a standard operating procedure, an SOP, and people get triggered when they say, oh, they're conniving. Oh, they're a silver-tongued devil, city slicker that speaks fast. And you're like going, well, I can slow my speech down and make it simple so we all get it. And I'm going, see, I can trust him. He speaks just like I do.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
We're looking for a connection. We're hungry for it.
I mean, and this was the last point with regards to Clubhouse, because it was a unique platform, and and as you said, people would stay for 16. I knew people that were there for 48, 72 hours straight because they were going in an evolution, because they created friendships with people in other continents and other time zones. So they would stay on because they were in North America, but their friends came on at 6 o'clock at night because it was Europe time. And and it was so insane that you would see this people rotating. There was one group, a Spanish group, that was called Overnighters. The Overnighters group, and their logo was the symbol Dracula, because it was that they actually took shifts, so people would go to sleep.
Right, because they didn't want to lose their spot in the dialogue, so they would tag team with people. And I'm like going, okay, first of all, if you're up for 24 hours, how articulate are you?
Right.
How triggered could you be by someone giving a response to you? And this is what I started finding was happening. They're like, oh, we've had this marathon. It's been 72 hours. And I'm like, what? Well, first of all, because I don't hear a shower running anywhere near the vicinity of any of y'all that have been on here for 72 hours. I don't know if you, I was like, I hope you have a whole lot of Febreze and Old Spice and water, and you've been taking protein bars, because it's like, how are you taking care of yourself? And this is the point. People were so starved for connection,
right,
that they would do anything, and thank goodness they weren't on camera, because I don't need to see that. And so that's the thing that we've started noticing now with Zoom platforms or video platforms. Veenu and I have been part of virtual events for the last couple years, and you can't unsee certain things.
No.
There are certain things you're like, please have an avatar, please have a
Right.
screensaver, please have the blurred filter on. Oh my goodness, no, you don't.
Please turn on the camera when you stand up and you have no pants on.
Or you've gotten out of the shower.
Right.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot. But I think to Chuck's point is that people want connection. It's what AI is not going to bring. It's not what, I was like, even talking to somebody yesterday on a coaching call, and I was like, to think years ago, I did my coaching calls by phone.
Yes.
Like I couldn't even fathom doing a coaching call by phone now. Like when I got clients that are like, hey, I can't get on Zoom. Can we do it over the phone? I said, I mean, if you want to, I feel like we're going to kind of waste a session if we do, but if that's what you want, I'll give it to you. But I call them through Zoom so I can at least see myself talk, I guess, because I feel more connected just having a visual. It's like what you said. It's that visual, feeling in
it's
the
projecting
energy. Right?
energy. It is. It's all energetic.
Yeah.
I mean, energy precedes you before any dialogue or conversation. The
Right.
challenge becomes, and one of the things I've become so adverse to is people just messaging. They're like text message. I'd rather get an audio message through text at this point because at least I get to hear their voice. The fact of the matter is that if they could actually send a very brief video to me, I'd even be more enthused about that. And the reason for that is you get to see them. You get to actually see their well-being, their space, where they're actually living. Are they in the head? They're in their heart. And then people go, wait, you can see that? I said, in conversation, when you're really connected with someone and you're making eye contact and they can feel your energy, I said, that's priceless. That's priceless. You could have 10 phone calls and never get that engagement. There are people who can just look at you and you're like, wow, it's like they're piercing me. And it's like, why? Because they have the ability of being able to emote and emit energy through the screen to you. And they'll go, that's baloney. I said, then why are you smiling? Why are you more happy? Why are you enjoying this engagement?
Absolutely.
No, and if you think of how everything has evolved, because video conferencing is not something new. It's something that has been around for a while, but we just started using it because we had the need to get it going. But if you remember, so many in the business world, you have the launch and learns, vendors teaching you how to use a product or how to sell that product during your launch period.
Mm-hmm.
And that was great.
Yeah.
So now I'll talk from that end. I have launch meetings over Zoom or over Teams with clients because it's easier than to travel.
Absolutely.
And when you travel and you go to visit a customer, sometimes you lose the sense of timing. Here you can have a 2-hour lunch session with your client, and you don't have to worry about is my car being towed? Am I missing I am going to miss my airplane?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a better perspective. You can really dig into the people's issues.
Are they gluten-free, dairy-free, kosher, no pork, pescatarian? And people go, what? I go, I've done virtual presentations where literally I've just had Uber Eats deliver whatever food they ordered. I paid for it. They're sitting there and I'm on an office call with 14 different offices simultaneously.
Chuck, I want to be on your call then, and I'll just tell you what I want you to send to my house for Uber Eats. And since we're going to be doing this Monday at 8, like, you want to get dinner?
Veenu, that broccoli was delicious. And but it's what we started finding was there's a level of appreciation because they're getting information, they're getting refueled at the same time. And I'm literally in 14 of their offices, which when can you do that? It's like, I couldn't physically visit 14 offices. It would take me 2 weeks. It'd be an office a day because they're in 14 different cities. And I was like, but I can do this all now. But here's the deal. And this is the most imperative part of this entire sequence of this conversation. The value that's created by identifying what their needs are.
Correct.
I see so many people just go into a dialogue. They love hearing themselves talk. They go into a monologue about this is what we do, this is our stuff, and no one thinks their baby's ugly.
I mean, okay.
I get it. And I would go, what part of the baby is most important to you in this process? I'm like, I get it. You're a diaper manufacturer. That's what's most important to you. It could be shampoo if that's the product for you. It could be baby wipes. It could be swaddles. It could be pacifiers. It could be zinc oxide rub for their tushies. The point of being is wherever the pain points are,
right.
When you can deliver solutions, and now amongst 14 offices, they're coalescing and going, you know what? We had the exact same question. We had the exact same. It's like, wow, this is really cool. Because now you're being deliberate. And what it shows is not only preparedness, professionalism, it actually shows a caring heart. You took enough time to ask Veenu, and it goes back to the beginning of this conversation, very poignant, clear, concise, clarifying questions, so that way you could identify where the value is.
Right.
So, guys, we are coming almost closing to the end of the show. Can you imagine that we have been for 50 minutes on the air?
Like, oh my gosh, we're almost done. Like, what happened? We lost time.
So you said we're having a 2-hour show on Monday?
We can do a 2-hour show. I have no problem. I'll give you all the time in the world.
Chuck. Yeah, no, thank you, Chuck.
No, I was gonna say Veenu might be tired of me at that point, and she's like going, "We need an intermission."
I'm gonna be honest. Like Chuck and I will get on a call, and he's like, "Then you got 5 minutes," and I already know it's gonna be like an hour and a half phone call.
It's so embarrassing.
Like, it's so funny. Like every time, my husband will be like, "Okay, we have to do this," and I'm like, "I just need 5 minutes." He's like, "Who are you talking to?" I'm like, "Chuck." He's like, "You mean you need 2 hours and 5 minutes?" I'm like, "Oh, maybe." But that's the beauty of our friendship. You know, you asked that. I think it was your second question, like how in sync we are with each other. It's because we don't look at a time. We don't look at feeling rushed. We're just very present with each other when we come together. And that's what we want to offer the listeners. We want to be very present with you guys. We want to talk about what is happening now in our lives. Like we want to live now. We want to discover tomorrow, being that mystery together and being prepared for it and seeing it through different eyes. Like we want to get the world out of the suffering. We want to get the world out of living in scarcity. And I think that's probably the biggest topic that Chuck and I talk about all the time when we're bringing up things. It's like Chuck always says, and you know why? That's his thing. You know why? Because they're always living in scarcity. I'm like, yes, Chuck, they are. You know, and what we want is we want people to be able to be the best them so they can live the best life. Because as Chuck says, you can live the best life and you're not being the best you. But when you are the best you live the best life.
That's awesome, guys. So let's reiterate to our audience. Live now with Chuck, with Veenu and Chuck. Let's put the lady first.
Of course.
And every single Monday, 7 p.m. on Single TV's channel 249 and 250 on the Spanglish World Networks and her networks.
I just want to correct that. It's 7 p.m. Central Time. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
No, it's 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central.
Just watch our Facebook because we will be tuning in to let you guys know the right time to join us on Monday.
We promise.
Give me 2 seconds. I will verify that with you. Oh, you are right. You are right. It's 8
Wait. Can you say that one more time? I don't hear that enough from my husband.
8 p.m.
fun together.
8 p.m.
I mean,
8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. And it's going to be a great start to a new show from the two best people we have on the network. So it can just be magic. So I want to remind all our audience that this show can also be heard across the Spanish World Network's radio network and it's affiliated on social media. Remember to go to our website on SpanishWorld.ca for all the news and programming. And because I am so new at doing this, because I haven't done a show for so long, I want to remind everybody that Single TV can be acquired through Amazon Fire and Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Google Sticks, Google Chrome, and on all iOS and Android stores. Please go there, leave us a comment and a rating. We would love to hear what you think of our shows. And until Monday, when these two people will be on the air with Live Now with Veenu and Chuck, this has been Eduardo Harari for the for the record. And until next week, thank you very much and have a great weekend.
Thank you, brother.